back to the channel, everyone. Today I'm here at Hillside Food Forest with Sam and Liz, and they're going to tell us about their regen journey, their farm, and all the amazing things about it. So Sam and Liz, first of all, how did you get started into regen farming and why?
So, hi, I'm Liz. Well, we got started in the regen farming world about 3.5 years ago when we moved to this property from a half terrace in Redfern. So I'm a city girl. I grew up in Sydney for my whole life, and Sam's a Newcastle boy that moved to Sydney, was there for 10 years for uni and start of his career. And we just decided that we wanted to move out to a property and make a go of regen farming. We've always loved gardening, and we had our own aquaponics system in our terrace at Redfern, and we just weren't happy in the city life and wanted to make a go of producing and being in touch with nature. And so yeah, that's how we started.
So can you tell me, what do you grow and raise on your farm?
Right, so we've got pasture-raised chickens. We raise pasture-raised pork. So we've got a heritage breed Tamworth pig.
Cool.
And we do grass-fed, grass-finished beef as well.
Awesome. Before we go and explore into the chickens and the pork and the beef, can you tell me it's a big challenge nowadays to actually buy a farm. It's a big cost. And you told me when we were on the phone that you still have a full-time job in engineering,
That's
correct?
right, yeah.
How do you juggle the full-time job with your farm?
With difficulty. I guess the easiest way to explain it is we have taken a very cautious and staged approach to setting up our farm. We knew that we had no experience from the get-go. I mean, we were moving from this half terrace in Redfern. We'd both lived, pretty much city lives, never lived rurally, and that comes with its whole own set of challenges. And then we're changing industries as well. And so we knew that we just didn't have the experience needed just to go straight into it. And we knew that we were going to make mistakes. We've made a lot of them. So we took this staged approach, which included choosing this property so that we could continue in our full-time careers while we kind of work things out. We're 3.5 years in now, and Liz has been full-time farmer now for just over a year, which is really exciting. Cool. But as you said, I'm still working off-farm at the moment, and that's really to give us the freedom to keep pushing forward and keep learning and keep growing without taking a huge risk.
What are some of the challenges that you have faced from going from city life to farming life? Like, what's one that comes to mind?
Floods are a big one.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Yeah, so when we first moved 3.5 years ago now, we had like 1 in 100 year floods, and not being accustomed to rural life or being so remote, we didn't have a generator either. So we're not totally off grid. We don't have any solar yet. So when the grid power goes down, no power for a while, because when we got flooded in, means that Ausgrid can't come in to fix what the issue is. So we ended up with no power for about 10 days, which meant we had no running water for 10 days, which meant we couldn't leave and get out either because the creek was flooding us in. So we learned from that and bought a generator, but then Sam's gotten flooded in by himself. I've got flooded in by myself for 10 days. Same thing, power always goes out whenever there's a big weather, some sort of storm or something. We haven't had fires yet, so we're happy about that. I think that's a lot harder to deal with than the rain. But yeah, the big challenge has been the floods. I mean, being a bit isolated as well, like as you would have known or seen driving up here, it's there's not a lot around. There's no like post office or like supermarket or that sort of thing. So
A
like
lot of things to get used
you're
to.
traveling for any amenities, you're traveling about an hour and a half. So you can't forget things. You have to sort of try and plan ahead. But we make do, and we've definitely learnt and gotten into a bit more of a routine of knowing what we need and how to get by. So yeah, makes us more prepared. So that's the positive to come out of it.
So can you now show us your operation, your animals?
Yeah, of
and
course.
Walk around and
Yeah.
talk about them?
Yeah, let's do it.
do it.
So we'll have a look at the chickens first.
Yep.
Our poultry setup is all based off Joel Salatin's
Awesome.
systems. So we even built the Joel Salatin chicken tractor. We've got 2 of them, as you'll see a little bit later on.
They've been retired now.
They've been retired now, but that's where we started. So we've moved on to what is our first prototype of the next setup, which is a bit more human friendly, and it's also a bit more appropriate for our environmental conditions, our climate. That was a fantastic starting point. And a lot of the, I guess, details that Joel Salatin put forward, we've adapted, but we've tried to retain as close of an image to that as possible.
Cool. So what are those like adaptations, and what do you mean by human friendly?
Okay, so I might just stop here for a sec.
Yeah.
I'll just point this out. You can see where the chicken tractor's been previously. You can see these, the dark patches.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're really green. So one of the key aspects of Joel Salatin's chicken tractor setup is the daily move. So moving the chickens to new pasture every single day, but not just giving them access, they're actually fully raised on pasture.
Nice.
Yeah, so they're not on a concrete floor, they're not needing medication, it's as naturally as possible.
In terms of human friendly, that means that you'll see them, but the Salatin style tractors are quite low to the ground and you're manually moving them, whereas we can use the ute to move this, but also we can walk through it, whereas the other one we'd have to get on our hands and knees to get any chickens out.
Yeah.
That's not a fun job.
So this one, we've built it high enough that you can walk through it without having to crouch down,
Got it.
which is great for our backs, and so it's much more friendly for us. And it also means that it's much easier in a way to control for the climate. So we, when it's close to the ground, obviously, and there's a lot of steel, because we can get up to 40-degree days, you can get quite hot in there. So you can make some walls that the breeze can move through, but it almost ends up being like a hot box. So with the one that we've made now, which is almost like a hoop house, it means that we can make some modifications for the weather. So for example, when we get there, you'll see that we've put a tarp up inside to keep them dry from the rain, but it also means that you can control some of the wind that hits them as well. We've also put like a mister system in there, so when it gets really hot, we just connect that up and it can cool them down, whereas you can't really do that in the smaller sort of tractors. So they're just a couple of modifications that we made.
Yeah, this is the prototype as well, so we're still working out a lot of the details. We're really happy with where it is so far, but there's definitely more improvements to come in the future.
Learning from your environment and then adapting.
Exactly.
Like you said with Joel Salatin, he's obviously in a very different climate to us being in Virginia and the US. So it gets a lot hotter here in the summer, I believe. So it doesn't have that issue with it becoming a bit of a hot box. Whereas for us, we just find that it's much better for the chickens that they can get that nice cross breeze through there as well. So we've built some flaps on the outside so that we can lift them up so that the breeze can come through on the hotter days.
And so what breed are these chickens then?
So these are the commercial, just a commercial broiler. So it's a Cobb Ross or a Cornish cross. So it's what make up probably 99% of all meat chicken.
And how big do they get then when they're ready to harvest?
So we process ours at 8 weeks old, and at that point they're around the 4 kilo mark, live weight.
That's massive.
Yeah, yeah. So the last couple of weeks' growth is really, really massive. In fact, in the last week, they eat almost as much feed as they did for the first 7 weeks combined.
Wow.
It's huge, and their growth rate is really massive. In fact, we do need to be careful at that age because there's so much pressure on their bodies to grow really fast. So we actually ration their feed, so they can't just sit there and gorge themselves. Because if they do, if they just sit around that feeder all day and they don't actually move around, they'll put too much pressure on their organs because they're just forcing themselves to grow really fast,
Right.
and then they'll get heart attacks. So that's one of the things we have to do a little bit differently to make sure that we can raise them through to that age.
And so what kind of feed do you use then?
So we use just a bagged feed, but we were very careful to find one that would tick all the boxes that we could. Now it's not perfect, but the first thing that we really wanted to do was get a non-medicated feed.
Yep.
And that's a lot harder than you think. So most feed for chickens come with an antibiotic in them. And so, yeah, by default, most feed is medicated for meat chickens. So that was the first thing that we really wanted. The second thing is we wanted corn-free and we wanted soy-free. Nice. Now, we didn't get soy-free, but we got low soy. Okay. But we did get corn-free, which is great. And the reason that, there's a lot of reasons why we wanted to avoid corn and soy. But one of the drivers really probably at the top of the list is that they're not really great nutritionally. So, I mean, corn is more or less empty calories. So really great for getting animals, growing them big and fat, but it's not great for nutritional density. And it's a similar reason for soy, although soy is normally used for protein in animal feed. For us, our feed, the main protein source is meat. It's a meat meal. Meat. Yeah, that's right. So we'll step in and I'll show you the feed itself because it's not a pelletized feed.
Like a crumble, and then we've also got the...
So you can see there's plenty of whole seeds,
so there is
rolled
a
grains.
little bit of a pellet that they have in there.
So that's a micro pellet. So one of the things we find too, so the chickens need, they have different feed requirements throughout their life. So when they're really young, they need more protein. And as they get older, they need more energy to keep up with that growth. And what we find with this feed, as they transition from the crumb starter onto this main feed that they use, they'll actually selectively pick out for their nutritional needs. So they'll eat more of the meat meal early on, and then as they get older, they'll preference, say, the wheat in there. So the tarp here is temporary. So we only have that out when there's going to be some, more than light rain. So we used to have it on top, but as you can see, the 2-inch poly has started warping and hasn't held up to it. So eventually we'd like to get one of these made up in steel. But for now, this is, because it's our prototype, it's about working out what we need, what works, what doesn't, before we invest in, a piece of infrastructure that we may not be able to change.
Used as much like secondhand sort of stuff that we've had, that like repurposing things. So like the sleepers at the bottom, they're all heat treated wood that used to be like industrial pallets. So rather than just buying new wood and chemically treated wood, that sort of thing, we've tried to use as much that's secondhand, I guess you'd say, as possible.
How many chickens do you have here in this?
There's around the 280-ish mark around here, maybe 270. Yeah, we won't have a final count until it's processing day.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like much from just looking at
That's
them.
right. But the spacing for the birds we've based off the Salatin model. So we've taken that model and we've just scaled it up a little bit.
And how much grass do they actually eat? How much pasture?
Quite a bit, actually. We were in a bit of a hurry this morning, so we fed them a lot sooner than we would normally, but often we like to leave them for about 15 to 20 minutes before we bring the feed in. And you'll see, we'll go around the back, I'll show you how much they eat, but they actually do eat quite a bit.
They often get quite excited when we're going to move them. They know what's happening, so they'll run to the front of the tractor.
That's
And
cool.
they're waiting for to get access to the fresh grass. So we do see them eat a fair bit, and they just like to explore and scratch around. So as well as it being good for them nutritionally, they also get some enjoyment out of it as well, which is nice.
You can see there's plenty of space for them. Like they're running around.
Yeah, yeah.
They've got no leg issues, which is a big deal with this breed, because they grow so fast. In fact, if they grow too fast, they'll get leg issues and then they'll get organ issues. Our growth sits about a week and a half or so behind a conventional setup.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So our birds actually grow a little slower than what they would if they were in a shed,
But that's good.
which is good.
Yes.
Yep. And that a little bit of extra time gives more time to develop flavour as well.
Oh, yeah.
So that's actually, we weren't intending to grow bigger chickens. Our intention was to grow better tasting chickens. And the size is just a fortunate outcome.
This is only a day, so when it sort of hits about a week or so, you start to see more growth with the pasture coming back. Whereas right now, obviously, there's a lot of manure there.
Yeah, but at the back you can clearly see that it's just bouncing back straight away in
Exactly.
a couple days.
It really doesn't take
Yeah.
long.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing, really.
And the problem with leaving them too long is that because it's so potent, that would just kill off the grass if we left them for
Oh, okay.
too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, so part of that daily move is to also manage the manure load. Because as Liz said, if there's too much, we'll get toxicity issues.
We're very primitive at the moment in that we don't have a tractor. So pretty much anything that we do is done with the ute or by hand. So it would be a lot easier and a lot more time efficient if we had one, but that's part of the challenge, is that in order to make something work financially, you want to work within your means, and tractors aren't cheap. So right now we're just working with what we've got, and we'll grow from there. And if we had a tractor, we could plant and broadcast seed as often as we needed, but right now we work around that issue.
But pigs are the thing that took off for us straight away. I mean, they breed prolifically, which meant that we suddenly had product to sell, and that kind of got us moving. And eventually, we started off just doing wholes and halves.
Okay.
We processed our first pigs a little over 18 months ago, that were born and bred on the farm. We did wholes and halves for about 6 months, thereabouts, and then we got into Carriageworks Farmers Market. And then we were there we started off every 2 weeks because we didn't have enough pigs, enough pork to do it weekly, but then we grew into that as well. So now we're there weekly.
So we try to make sure that they are only in their paddocks that we give them for 7 to 10 days. So it's enough for them to root around and just without disturbing the ground too much. But you can see parts where they've had their little nests, I guess, where they all congregate and sleep and cuddle together, which is fine. It comes back as you can see things start to grow.
We tend to only run pigs over a piece of ground, either one pass a year, maybe 2 passes, depending on where it is and what the conditions are like. But yeah, that's why it's important that we keep up with the animal moves and their impact, because we do end up with a small area here of overcompaction, and where their water is over there, they've made a nice big wallow. That has other benefits.
Okay.
But then when we move them back through here in probably a year's time roughly, we'll set these up in different spaces so we can make use of that effect.
Cool. So these wallows, what will they do in the long term run? Will they collect water and then make a little ecosystem, or?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So the wallows hold water for the longest time of anywhere on the farm, really, aside from man-made dams.
Yeah, very inquisitive animals. They're curious. They'll come up, and if you stay still long enough, they'll come up and try to bite your boot or try and scratch up against your leg. Or we have that one. I think he's trying to mate that one. But they're like big dogs. We have our breeder Duke. He's 400, 500 kilos, somewhere in there. And he'll flop on his back and give you his belly for a nice belly scratch. So they're very friendly.
Having no experience at all with livestock, we were really quite concerned about trying to raise pigs. Didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. We knew that they were big animals. We knew that they were stubborn. Pig-headed is a term for a reason. And we knew that they could be dangerous. So the first 3 that we started off with, we raised them as pets.
Yeah.
So they got a lot of one-on-one attention. And we've still got those first 3, and they love to come up for scratches. But what we've found since then is that pretty much all our pigs love scratches. Once they get to a certain age, they mellow out a little bit. So when they're really young, they're very skittish. And then as they get older, they get more and more inquisitive. And then they learn that humans give great scratches.
And so can you tell me what breed these pigs are?
So these are Tamworth pigs. So it's an old English breed, heritage breed pig.
We were talking before when the camera wasn't on, you were talking how they are bacon pigs.
Yeah, that's right. So pigs can kind of be split on a spectrum between meat pigs at one extreme of that spectrum. You might find, like, say, a large white, which is your big commercial pork breed. And at the other end of the spectrum, you might find something like a Megalitza, which is bred for its lard. And these pigs, being a bacon breed, they're kind of more in the middle, so they've got a lot more fat on them than, say, a large white or even the heritage meat breeds like a Berkshire. Much thicker fat cover, but they're not so much as to be an actual lard breed. It's made it a bit tricky in terms of working out how to use them because people aren't used to having a lot of fat on their meat. It's meant that the pork that we've produced is really great, but we do have to trim quite a lot of fat off it so that it's more aligned with what people expect. And then that's created something else, another need, which is to use all this extra fat. So we've started making other products from that fat now. So we rendered the lard down,
Yep.
we rendered the fat down into lard, and we've started using that lard to make a skincare range.
Lovely.
So we're making an all-natural moisturiser, which is about 70% lard, and that's going really, really well. That's really amazing. And the effect that it has on your skin is just incredible.
I know, I don't use anything else but tallow and lard. That's my skincare.
We'll have to give you one of our all-natural moisturisers to try out. We've got 3 different kinds. So we've got an unscented, so it sort of just smells like honey because there's a little bit of beeswax in there. We've also got a citrus option, which is mainly just sweet orange essential oil. And then we've also got a holidays blend, which is like a mixture of clove, nutmeg, sweet orange, lime, pine, and I feel like I'm forgetting one. But yeah, it's really nice. And it's also got jojoba oil in it as an antibacterial component, organic jojoba oil.
While we're on the topic of your products, and before the rain comes in again, can you tell us where we can find your pork, where we can find your chickens, where we can find your lard? Tell us also where we can find you on social media, if we can.
Yeah, definitely. So if you want to see us in person, we're at Carriageworks Farmers Markets every Saturday morning from 8 till 1. We also sell all our products online. So we distribute all across Australia. We use a cold courier, so we can get anywhere from WA to up to North Queensland to Tasmania as well. Hillside Food Forest .com.au is our website, and again for Instagram and Facebook we're Hillside Food Forest. Nice and fluffy.
It's frozen.
Yeah, it's like,
Maybe they won't notice me.
I'm so still, I'm invisible. So about half our herd is Murray Grey, with the other half being Black Angus. And then our bull is a low-line Black Angus. So all our calves are across.
Nice.
Yep, so we've got them at a wider spacing today than what we would normally want and even what we planned this morning. But that's one of the outcomes of not having a lot of infrastructure in place. But normally they'll graze back an area fairly evenly. But if you give them too much space, then they'll selectively graze more than we want. So you can see here, like, they're quite spaced out.
Yeah, the pasture's not amazing, so I kind of want to give them enough that they're happy. Otherwise they'll try and move on to further past the electric fencing, because like if they wanted to, they could easily jump over it. But if they've got enough there and they're happy, they don't worry about it.
That's the thing with electric fencing, it's a psychological barrier. It's not a physical barrier. So
Right.
the moment that something causes them to want to get to the other side of that electric fence, they will. So for cows, it's a case of having enough feed to keep them happy. For pigs, it's about keeping them entertained. As soon as they get bored, they break out.
Wow. Different challenges with different animals.
Definitely.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about your farm? Anything you would like to say to the people on YouTube?
Hi, come follow us at Hillside Food Forest. Yeah, we're just thrilled that you reached out to us, and we're humbled that you wanted to come and speak to us, given all the amazing people that you've already spoken to. So thank you for making out the trip out.
And thank you for allowing me to come here and do the interview. It's really cool.
We just bought a food truck. It was really cool. So that gives us an on-farm production kitchen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of the next step in us being able to produce more products. And so like the first one that we haven't been able to produce but automatically can now that we've got that kitchen is bone broth, which is taking another waste product and turning it into something that we can use. So
very good.
Yeah, trying to making use of everything and wasting nothing is such a big part of making it all work, I think, as well as hitting a certain minimum scale. Something that we've been pretty surprised about at Carriageworks. So we've had, we bring everything from the animals we process, everything we can get, and in terms of pigs, it means like we're bringing trotters vacuum sealed, tails, tongues, ears, all of it. And the idea was that we'd bring it there, give people first pass to either buy it for themselves or their dogs or whatever, and then anything left over we'd turn into some other value-add product. And a lot of those things, we're getting to a point now where we actually don't have any more, like we sell out at the markets.
Oh.
They become some of our higher moving products because you might only get one or two on a pig and they go pretty quick. Yeah. And people are starting to discover that we have all of these other products. And they're starting to come to us because they want, packed for human consumption pig's ears or tongues or something for certain dishes. So that's been a real surprise. It's something that's really cool.
Yeah, and being in such a multicultural area where Carriageworks Farmers Market is in a city, what is not common for Western cuisine would be quite common in Asian cuisine, like things like the ears and the tails and even the packs of fat as well can be quite popular too. Yeah.
And it's a good product that you guys are bringing to people, and it's like you wouldn't want to get a pig's tail from a closed
commercial
farm.
So
exactly. Factory farms, they don't even have the tails because
they just discard them.
Yeah. When they're piglets, right?
Yeah,
so
they get behavioural issues. Yeah. So in a factory confinement setting, pigs
they'll get
the
bored.
behaviours they want to express.
Yeah.
They're not able to express those behaviours in a factory setting, so then they get behavioural issues, and part of that is they bite off each other's tails.
Right.
So instead of changing the system, they just cut off the tails.
Yeah. Sneaky.
Yeah. There's a lot of examples of that in industrial animal agriculture, which
cutting corners.
just does.
Yeah.
Inhumane.
Yeah. Well, I guess we can wrap it up then while it's sunshine. Thank you, Sam and Liz, for showing me around your beautiful and amazing farm. It's quite cool to see what you've done in only 3 years. Everyone on YouTube, thank you for watching this video. Go check out their Instagram and go buy their produce. It's great stuff. It's regen, it's healthy for you, and it tastes great by what I've heard from many of my friends eating their produce. So thank you again on YouTube. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and I'll see you next time. Bye.